Hello, everyone, in new episode of Marwa Khalid podcast. I hope everyone is watching me right now is okay. But if you are Sudanese, I know none of us are. After what happened in Al-Fashir last week, and after the attacks that we saw from this terrorist militia that called RSF, and all the lives we lost, we cannot even pretend that we are fine. It's impossible. I wasn't able to come to do this episode today. It wasn't easy for me personally. So today, we're gonna talk about what happened in Al-Fashir last week. We're gonna raise awareness, and we will make sure in this episode that those crimes cannot be ignored. In this episode, we're gonna call for truth, for understanding, and for action. So I'm happy today to have with me, an honor actually to have with me Dr. Amjed Farid, former official in the transition government of Sudan. So happy to have you here in my program, or I usually find it weird, but Marwa Khalid podcast.
Thank you, Marwa, and thank you for having me. And I would prefer to be introduced as a Sudanese citizen right now. I think everyone who participated in the political dynamics in the past period is stained somehow with the crimes that's taking place right now. We had a very glorious revolution. It was a great flight. And we flew very close to the sun with our hopes and aspiration. But unfortunately, I think our political class, including myself, the political elites of Sudan, were not really well equipped to satisfy the aspiration of the people and serve them well. And this ended with us to the coup in 2021 first, and then to the fall, to the spiral of this brutal war, in which it's not only what happened in Al-Fashir, but I think it's a campaign of atrocities that the Sudanese nation, the Sudanese people are paying the utmost price for the failure of their political.
And everyone is blind and everyone is silent, Dr. Amjad.
Not everyone is blind, not everyone is silent. I think it's just certain circles of the political elites are trying to monopolize the political scene. They are trying to redefine the Sudanese norm and the Sudanese discourse and the Sudanese connections to their country. Ali Osman Muhammad Taha in the early 90s, after the Islamist coup, came with what was called the Civilization Project, and he was very blunt in saying that it is an attempt to redefine the Sudanese personality. Of course, he failed miserably. The glorious revolution in 2018 and the struggle before it in 2013, in 2011, and even before that, since the coup, the resistance of the Sudanese people, including their political parties, their civil societies, and their trade unions, everything, proven him wrong. Now, I think many people who were in the circles of the FFC, they thought that there is a prize for this struggle, for them to take the country and redefine it in their own conditions.
And also they pretend as they are the representative of Sudan. They are their only ideas is the main ideas of Sudan.
They are not alone on that. Actually, many in the Western circles have helped them a lot, have funded them, supported them, provided them with the illusion that they are the only representative of and the only hope for the progress of Sudan. The problem is that they are completely dissociated from the Sudanese people and from the Sudanese grassroots. And when you see right now in many of the circles who are raising a very noble slogan of not war, of calling to peace, they are trying to redefine this slogan in their own terms and putting it in the frame of supporting the most notorious actor in this war, which is the RSF militia, and the UAE, which is behind it, which is which had been the main driver of this war since day one.
Yeah, just to clarify to our audience, especially the foreigners that we are speaking about, the civilian who are trying to speak through the international community about Sudan, especially that they think they are parties. They are presented in many names like Sumud or Tasis, and before that, Taqaddum. So they have different names, but those are civilians that Dr. Amjed right now is speaking about. So, Dr. Amjad, we know will be a big subject for us, but let's start by Al-Fashir and what happened last week. And do you agree with me that actually fit on a wider pattern of violations in Sudan? Like, people now understand that there is a problem and there is genocide happening in Sudan just today. In Al-Fashir, I have people texting me what's happening in Sudan today after 2 years. So, what do you think about that?
The war in Sudan was not only attack on the people of Sudan. It was attack on the truth. It was attack on the fact. It was an attempt to market an alternative reality in which Hemeti and the RSF are the heroes of good and the builders of democracy and the champions of the civilian rules. And this have participated into marketing a narrative that was criminal. It wasn't just a political discourse. This narrative have shadowed the genocide that took place in the beginning of the war in Guinea. In the first few weeks of the war, the rape, the sexual violence, the looting, the ethnic killing in Al Khartoum, in Al Jazeera. If you remember that in the same week, RSF invaded Al Jazeera and took over Wad Madani and committed like heinous crimes of killing, of sexual violence, of looting, of forcing people to be displaced again. In the same week, Hamdok and his chorus signed an agreement,
MOU, yes.
and a memorandum of understanding with
Yeah,
the
yeah.
RSF, calling for the protection of civilians. The question is, protection of civilians from whom? When you abstract these concepts, when you make protection of civilians something that's not related to who attacks the civilians, where the risk to civilian is coming from. So it's basically an abstract concept that has no translation on the ground. You simply participate in giving the militiamen of the RSF institutional impunity because they know that the blood will be diluted among the tribes, as the Sudanese
And the
proverbs.
funny thing is that this agreement is still, they didn't even say we are not, we will withdraw with this agreement. They still keeping this agreement. So, and they feel like,
تقدم and Sumud and Tasis and the FFC have changed their positions so many times. And across these positions, they always don't self-reflect and they don't apologize to the Sudanese people and they don't explain. They continue to say that we are right and we are correct and we always continue to be the right and correct faction. Because they don't respect the people. They don't actually think that the people are important in the political equation, the mass of the people who now are supporting, many of them are supporting the army, not in support of the army, but in defiance to the RSF. RSF have proven itself to be the absolute evil, the absolute, and from the beginning it was very obvious. But I will give your international audience another example from the Second World War. Nobody can claim that Britain or France or even the US or China or the Soviet Union, all the allies were like so good and so noble and they were fighting. But the problem was that the other side, the Axis, represented pure fascism. And fascism is everyone fight because you cannot coexist with fascists. And when you look at the RSF right now, and when we point to them as a fascist organization, this is not just a political insult or a word. They are actually ticking the boxes of every defining characteristics of fascism, from racism to sexism to cult culture, hero worship. Every defining characteristic of fascism is represented.
And I can just add to what you're saying. This is not just starting in Al-Fashir right now. They did an all ethnic cleansing and genocide. But when you remember the start of this war, when they actually captured Khartoum and they stayed in Khartoum, the first thing they did is actually staying in the houses of people and also burning down all the national records of Sudanese people, so no one can exist but them. No one can come back, return to their homes
I'll tell
after
you
this
about
war.
one thing. Nasruddin Abdel Bari, one of the former Minister of Justice
Yeah,
and
I think he's an
a current
active now
an advisor to
official
the
of
RSF,
RSF, yes.
he was contacted by some of the archaeologists when the RSF took over the museum, the Sudanese National Museum, and he said it's not important. This is not ours. So basically, the looting of the museum, the looting of the Sudanese culture and heritage is not something that they do really care.
And that's actually something, will be my next episode, by the way, all about this. I will talk about the Sudanese heritage and the looting. But also, that remind me, I was talking to someone who's from the archaeological department here in Sudan, and he said to me now, the Museum of Ali Dinar in Al-Fashir right now, they are looting the museum.
Because,
They
again,
are
this is-
erasing anything related to Al-Fur history, because those are the indigenous people of Darfur.
I'm not going to give them even the intellect of doing this. They are not doing this, but it is actually another characteristics of fascism, that they have very little regard to culture or science or heritage. They are there to survive as with their supremacist ideology, disregarding everyone else. And this is why they are committing genocide. And this is why they are no different of what they were doing now and 20 years ago. Let's not forget that the RSF of today is the metamorphosis of the Janjaweed who committed these same crimes in Darfur and in Kordofan 20 years ago. The assumption that there are changes that happen to them is not substantiated with anything. When they bring us Abu Lulu and
They are making this scene that we are now investigating with him and all the crimes that
I
have
will
been
give
done by
you
him.
names of 7 other leaders of the RSF who committed even more brutal and killed more people in Darfur and other areas, but they are not bragging about it in the media. And this is exactly why media is important. This is why exactly heroes and patriots like Muammar Ibrahim, the journalist who have took his stand in Al-Fashir until it was overtaken by the RSF are champions. They expose the facts that Hamdok and his people cannot cover because it is from the ground. This alternative reality, that's an alternative narrative that they are trying to market to those lazy diplomat in the diplomatic circles, and they just want to believe it because they speak nice English. And like, yeah, Hamdok is our friend. He took a drink with us a few days ago. Like, let's believe him. It's not the reality of what's happening in Sudan. This is the RSF is fighting its war against the Sudanese people, while their allies in Ta'sis and Sumud are fighting the same war against the reality and facts.
While the Sudanese people are the victims here and they are dying, and everyone is trying to force a reality that is not even on the.
Not everyone. I think it's basically UAE funding all of this. If you look at
And for the people, by the way, who was asking, many people now I can see in social media after people start to to know what's happening, they are asking, okay, United Arab Emirates is a very rich country. Why they are interested in Sudan? Why they are? This is like a false claims. And so, what can we say to those?
resource extraction, that's how sub-imperial capitalist countries get rich. Like how this is how they get rich, by resource extraction, not only from Sudan, but from Sudan, Sahel, Red Sea, Algeria, Djibouti. Every country in the region have actually suffered of this Emirati project in a way or another. Even Ukraine right now, they are suffering of Dubai being the money laundering capital of the Russian to evade sanctions. And the West knows about it, but because they make a lot of money in trade with Emirates, who's doing all of what it's doing with impunity, they are just setting a blind eye. So basically, why UAE is doing it is a question to be asked to the Emiratis official. But when you look at senior Emiratis official talking about Al-Fashir, alive in Al-Fashir, getting back to normal, if you
Yeah, I
saw,
saw that. Was so ridiculous. I saw that in some of the Arabic channels.
their media campaign, it's basically while the RSF is not only killing and continue to burn the cadavers and the bodies of their victims in areas in Al-Fashir, but they even shut down one of the last exits in the air sperm that
The
they built
parameters
around.
of Al-Fashir.
Yeah, no, they built. You know that they built a siege. They built a wall against Al-Fashir, and to prevent the entry and exit of people. And there is few holes
This is
here and there.
after the capturing of Al-Fashir.
This was like, it was going for at least 7 or 8 months, because they were trying to control, to prevent any aid of being delivered or smuggled to the city. One of the few holes was the road to Gurney, which people were using to flee the occupied city, and it was closed. In the same time, you find a very senior Emirati official talking about life getting back to normal.
And in the same time, the humanitarian lab in Yale saying that today we saw them burning the bodies of the people who killed. Today we saw them separating children from in different camps and then killing people. They saw that stains is seen from satellites.
As I said, it's war on reality. It's war on facts. It's an attack on truth. So, and everybody is trying to justify this. Let's remind them of one thing. We Sudanese didn't go to Emirates to comment about how monarchy is not working and they cannot be a republic or a state while they have a monarchy system. We didn't go there to comment of their lack of democracy. We didn't comment on the Emirati political detainees who were detained just because they asked for a parliament. They didn't even ask for general elections. But we went there and we helped the building of their country. We helped. Of course, it was paid. Of course, every Sudanese scholar who went there was well paid. But we went there to build. We went there to.
And this is, by the way, it's a modern time. It's the 70s. We're not talking from like a very old time.
They came to our country first to support Bashir regime until the last few weeks of his regime. What they did, actually Emirates was one of the last countries who provided al-Bashir in the 19th of March 2029, about 3 weeks before his fall, with almost $300 million.
And now they are circulating the narratives that we are fighting the brother Muslims and
the Muslim Brotherhood and others.
Yeah.
So basically, and after that, they just turned and find a new proxy. with RSF and other civilian, some of the other civilians acted, and they funded them. And they talk about the coup and they forget that they supported the coup, the joint coup of SAF and the RSF. If SAF decided to do the right thing after that and to stand for the militia, that's first not compatible with any state structure, because it's a parallel army and that's killing people, that's raping women, that's looting, that's destroying infrastructure, that's looting civilian belongings. If SAF is doing that, I'm not going to wait for someone to say like, yeah, but we should judge them with the past. RSF and SAF share the same past, but it's actions right now which matter more.
Are now fleeing from wherever, from the RSF area to the government area to the national army's area. It's clear. It's the one who's protecting right now is the national army. It's not the RSF.
And it's a flawed national army. It's a flawed national army, as the rest of the state structure is also flawed. But we chose very early to fight against al-Bashir using our civilian resistance, and we managed to brought him down. We can survive and we can fight against the army leadership. But what does people in Al-Fashir right now can do? What do people in Yala can do? What like people killing happens?
It's not a war right now to choose governments. It's not a war to change a democracy. It's a war for surviving. Those people are trying to kill us, and now the only one who's trying to protect us is the legitimate right now, the national army. And I believe that this is what actually could hold this country together at this
And
moment.
it is what's holding it together. And furthermore, it's actually saying that the army is defending the people is not giving it the right to fight. Let's call for civilian change when the time comes. Let's restore stability and security to the people. Let's restore the stability and security of the people. Let's restore the people right to eat. Let's not forget that the RSF, before taking the Al-Fashir, it was actually starving the people for 18 months, preventing aid of going there. So before asking people to have democracy and civil rights, yeah, you should allow them to eat and survive and be secured. God in Quran, since you earlier made a comment about me being a communist,
I was
but
joking.
what he said,
I was joking. Come on, just
I'm a
don't take it
communist. I'm not denying it. But
Okay.
it's not only God who said like he ordered people to worship him after he fed them and he secured them, but also it is the basic science of sociology about the pyramid of Maslow. So basically, there is basic needs before you go to other. Now the RSF are killing people because they don't like their tribes, because they don't like how dark their skin is, because we're all dark, because we're all black in Sudanese, or the majority
Yes,
of
we
us.
have 84% African DNA in our blood.
Let's not go to the percentage, because like people are like they have the right to claim their
There
ethnicity,
are-
but
Yeah.
the point is that we're all black. So being darker in Sudan right now in the RSF controlled area is a reason for this. And in the same time, you find the Janjaweed mouthpieces who actually call for everyone who disagree with them to go and carry arms and fight. And they call themselves peace, pro-peace. They are not pro-peace. They are actually outbidding with the war and with the terror of the militia and with all these atrocities to outbid and try to settle their political scores with everyone who does not agree with them. And this is not less criminal than carrying the arms
That's
and
why
fight.
they are pushing right now for ceasefire after the falling of Al-Fashir, by the way, because I am surprised that they are putting this much pressure right now for ceasefire and have a truce for a couple of months. In the same time that the Al-Fashir was in siege for the past 600 days.
It's not only that. In June, few months ago, actually the Secretary General of the United Nations called for a humanitarian peace for 7 days around Al-Fashir. It's just 7 days to deliver aid. SAF or the government accepted at the
I
tongue
believe it was
of
in
Burhan.
Ramadan, even, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't remember. It wasn't Ramadan. It was in the 29th of June. So Burhan accepted and the RSF just ignored. We didn't find the campaign asking the RSF to accept the same campaign that everyone on them is putting. That tells you that this is not a call for peace. This is a call to maintain the institutional existence of the RSF. And that's fine. If the RSF was not the criminal organization that it is, if the RSF was not the fascist organization that it is, if the RSF was not the terrorist organization that it is, but calling and pushing on the Sudanese people to accept such criminality to continue existing and without even any mentioning of accountability, any mentioning of, but that's accepting a death sentence. And one more thing, it's not only the presence, some of their leaders, Taha Ishaq, Muhammad Al-Faqih, they all praised Taha Ishaq praised Hemeti as a man of peace before, and before that he tried to justify the existence of the RSF in the political scene. And recently, just a few weeks ago, Sumud refused the invitation of the African Union to consultation about the political process because they did not invite Ta'sis. So basically, they continue to ensure maintaining its military presence by talking about merging it to the army, and they continue also to try to maintain its political front to exist. And I will tell you one thing about merging the army. Mixing two wines does not make a better wine. It's actually poisonous. I'll tell you this because I know it for experience. So basically, just talking about merging the two armies, if they are talking about SAF, is structurally flawed and it needs reform. Okay, that's fine. The Ministry of Health needs reform. The Ministry of Economy in Sudan needs reform. The whole state apparatus in Sudan needs reform. But actually adding a terrorist and fascist and racist elements to the army will not make it better, will not reform it.
No, I think what they are trying to do is to control how they can make I think the main aim of this whole thing is to control Sudan, to weaken the army, and then they make sure that they get whatever they need from what's happening in Sudan. But right now, I want just to clarify something you said, because also our foreigner listeners, they will not understand this, that there is civilian that been trying to represent Sudan. They call Taqaddum, and then they are separated to two parties, Sumud and Ta'sis. Ta'sis formed a government with the RSF, Rabbit for Support Forces, and Sumud, they are trying to act like they are not related to the other side, but they are working together in the end. And so people could relate to what you're saying.
I want to talk about the future, but the government, the core definition of a government is service provision. If you look at the RSF controlled area, even after the establishing of Ta'sis, you find complete lawlessness. So basically, there is no service being provided. There is nothing. So basically, this is not a government. This is just titles. But I want to talk about the future, because I think there is sentiment that's being marketed as that's the only way forward for Sudan is to continue the war, to completely exterminate and end the RSF. This is not possible, because this is not how wars end. But and negotiation is not a bad word. It's not a dirty word. It's not a naughty word. Negotiation, you actually negotiate with the enemy. You don't negotiate with your friend or your ally. So, but it's about negotiating about what? What is the agenda of such negotiation? I think any peace process and any negotiation for a stable and secure Sudan should be about ending the institutional existence of the RSF. along with all of its militarily, political, and economic
Their backers,
extensions.
they are fighting that not happen. The UAE is trying their best that will never happen.
The UAE is serving its agenda. Why should we care about what UAE
But they are
want?
influenced on the ground.
What UAE, those who care about the UAE agenda are the UAE
The problem
agents.
is that they are now financing, bringing weapons. That's why we cannot.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So basically, there will always be a country that called UAE, and there will always be a country that called Sudan.
That
So
means
we
that we need
also need to
pressure. We
negotiate.
need to put pressure on.
We need that, but we also need to negotiate with UAE about how to save our country. Ibrahim, in Arabic, when God asked him to kill his son for Muslim, is for Muslim it's Ismail, for Christians and Jewish it's Isaac. Anyhow, he actually instead of at the end, instead of slaughtering his son, he made the adha with the sacrifice with a big fat or two, I don't remember, lambs that came from the sky. I think we should do the same, because this is our country, this is our people, this is our nation, this is the most
So,
precious thing.
do you suggest
But
that we should have a sacrifice?
from it depends on what is the limit of our sacrifice. It will depend on that. There are things that we can actually give him a tea, give him amnesty, tell him go and stay in Abu Dhabi. This is difficult, and it's a better medicine, because many, I don't think the rape victims and those who lost their family members will accept this easily. But it's less costly than continuing the killing. And of course, for that we need pressure.
No, but also accountability is something that we
Of course,
need,
he
because
should.
the
The
amount of
RSF should
people.
not be allowed. The RSF and should
Maybe
its
if there
members.
is something like taking the
They
nationality
should.
away from him, maybe.
They should never be. You take off their civil rights. You don't allow them to participate in politics. What's marketed from the civilian, from the taqaddum and Western circles, Western diplomatic circles, about a power sharing agreement is not a solution, because you don't feed the beast more power, because when you feed the beast will eat you. So basically, yes, we need some sort of sacrifice, but this has a limit. It has a ceiling. Let me finish this. Let me finish this point. This has a ceiling. And for this ceiling, it's even this ceiling is very high and very difficult to be accepted and swallowed by the Sudanese people. Remember that there are 45 million Sudanese who all of a sudden their livelihood all over the world, not only in Sudan, have been affected by this war. Telling them to accept the criminal part of this war to run the country again is not going to happen. And without having this clear vision, it will always be this dilemma of not knowing where to start a peace process in Sudan. Because the problem for the last 2 years that the Western community have tried to market that there is an equal parties fighting in Sudan. They are morally equal, and let's bring them to the table.
And civil war in Sudan, yeah.
Let's bring them to the table and let's distribute things between them, and it will go fine. That's not true. There are the Sudanese people in one side, and there is the RSF, UAE, and their allies in the other
That's
side.
what I'm trying to say to you, but I was trying to make you finish what you're trying to say. But the idea of RSF itself as a legitimate body, as something that we can accept or even criminalize or maybe hold them accountable, is a waste of time, because they are now a toy, or maybe something that they've been used in Sudan to push an.
Yeah, they are a puppet in the hand of the UAE.
The UAE is the real enemy here.
Yeah, it's
So
it's,
even
it's
if
not,
we just maybe kick Hemeti out, or this is will never be
UAE
enough.
have been the biggest, like as I said, we didn't go to UAE to comment about how bad they are running their country, like giving people money and building Dubai and having 2 million expats serving 800,000 people is not development. But this is their issue, it's not ours. And how we run our country is also our issue and our matter, our concern is not theirs. But as I said, UAE is not the enemy to Sudan. UAE is the enemy to security and stability in the Middle East, in the Red Sea region, and in the world, actually. I remind you of one thing. In 2006, I don't know how old you were, right? I think 1 year, but
2006, yeah, I was probably university, yeah.
yeah, but in 2006, what happened that UAE tried to buy and take over 6 ports in the US. The administration at that time agreed to that deal, but it was actually the Congress which stopped Dubai ports of taking those. That include, by the way, New York port, which is the biggest port in the world. They stopped it because they said this is national security, we can't give them. It is the same for us in Sudan. There are things that we can do. It's not investment. Investment is, there is no free trade. That's a mess that Western and imperial countries tried to market it for a very long time, but it does not exist right now, because I'm seeing that like we are approaching.
Yeah, we're approaching
We're
the
approaching the
end.
end.
He just gave me a signal right now.
What I want to say, which is very important, that this outsourcing, the international community, the multilateral organization are failing, and they are failing badly. Al-Fashir was the cardinal sign of their failure. They left Al-Fashir. They knew what's going to happen. Everybody told them what's going to happen. Everybody, and how bloody it's gonna be if they took Al-Fashir. And they tried everything other than actually taking an actual.
They thought if Al-Fashir fallen, they will force the army to actually have agreement with the RSF. They have this theory in their minds.
And even if that was true, bad agreements are not agreements. If you read Faust, I don't remember that the guy who had the deal with the devil. Picture of Dorian Gray, for example.
Yeah.
Like so
if you
bad,
could just give us a short example of this.
He
So,
had money.
Hani will get angry after this.
Yeah, he had money, he had like everything, and he killed himself from the. You don't have a deal with the devil because you're killing yourself. What you force yourself is to get away from the devil, like as far as you can, and even if you can sacrifice something for this, so let it be.
And as you say now, what you want to say right now to the international community who are watching us right now? So is there
Shame on you. Is this something that's disgrace? That's something. But more important is stop playing with the facts. Is stop allowing more impunity for the soldiers and the militiamen whom you don't even know, but they are killing people, they are raping women, they are looting people by continue protecting
the fact that you knew that before it happened.
And it's not only that you knew, it's directly. Some countries like the UK government, some governments have played an active role in concealing the UAE support to the RSF. I will take you back to the Guardian last year that exposed that the UK government have tried to suppress criticism to the UAE support to the RSF, and this is active complicity. This is not passive diplomacy. This is active complicity in genocide and in crimes.
Thank you so much, Dr. Amjed, for being here today and for all those highlights, and hopefully that we can see that our Sudan is the perpetrators could be held accountable. And just thank you so much for being here today.
Let's hope that we will go back to Sudan soon, and it's going to happen at the end. Like, by the way, like I think the many around the world don't understand how resilient the Sudanese people are. But
we are survivors, and we are different from anyone in the world. We will
we're
never
not
surrender.
Different from anyone. Don't go there. Don't like just build off over a mountain.
Let's
we're resilient. We're resilient people, and we will go back and build our country.
Okay, then. Okay, I will not argue with you in this one. So I would say to everyone who's listening to me right now that I hope this episode was informative to you. And I'm going to say one thing, that maybe UAE money could influence government, could influence organization, could influence newspapers, but it will never influence nations. So educate yourself more about what's happening in Sudan. Learn more about this genocide that happened in Al-Fashir, not just in Al-Fashir. In many areas in Sudan, this genocide happened before. Educate yourself, learn more about Sudan, raise your awareness, and help us in calling for action and holding those criminals accountable. Thank you so much and see you in the next episode. Goodbye.